episode 7,000.
Now, 167 here, mate.
Pretty decent return.
Mate, most things are right in the world today. The Bledisloe Cups still belong to the All Blacks. Yes. It's a beautiful day.
That's it.
It's the 1st of November, which is always a great time, but the underlying cause of why we're still doing Movember is hanging over us a bit. That's where things aren't quite right.
Yeah, I think that's probably a decent summation of the day. Like, you're right, we're probably there's still work to be done in that space, but I remain extremely positive. Like, there's while some of the particularly the statistics, which are the things that get held up in lights a little bit, but it's just one measure. I think if we look at where we've come since I've started chatting to you over the last couple of years, I'm really encouraged by what I see. The acknowledgement of the issue is out the gate. People's desire to do something about it is just so encouraging. And then, you've only got to look at all the different initiatives there are out there. That I'm positive that sort of collective effort and energy is ensuring that we are going in the right direction. And even if we did have a reduction in the suicide statistics this year, albeit a small one, but it's still really encouraging. But I think if you look at the things we're trying to do to help each other, we're getting we're getting a sense of community back a little bit. And I think we're starting to understand the importance of connection and good relationships and trust and all that stuff that, perhaps is, some might say are old school values, but I think we're realizing that they're good foundations and we're trying to stick them back in our lives. So you're right, mate. The footy's under control and it's the 1st of November and a lot of things are lined up and with another good month, we'll keep pushing hard on the other stuff as well.
Bloody brilliant, mate. I was at a Wim Hof retreat yesterday with a guy, Nigel Beach, and he's an excellent man, and he does a hell of a good workshop as well. But one of his key talking points was, and it was one of the big themes that came out of that Man Enough documentary series, if you will, which we'll get to. But that was the moving from awareness to action. What are some of the fundamental actions that you guys are taking this month?
Yeah, look, I think you're right. Beachy's a great man. He runs a great workshop. I really love the breathing component of Beachy's workshops because we all breathe, but how much do we really understand about it? And I know that's a big focus for him is, we know we should be doing these things, but do we truly understand it? So I think his work is fantastic. I've done a couple as well. And I learned so much about my own body and my own processes in a matter of a couple of hours with him. So, but mate, yeah, I think like it's funny in terms of kind of the do component, and I think we can still keep it pretty simple in terms of what we want fellas to do. Like being it's still amazing how many young fellas don't know their family history and some of the things they might be a bit more susceptible to. It's still pretty amazing how many people out there think that, if you haven't been to the doctor or you haven't prioritized your health for like 10 or 15 years because you haven't felt you've needed to, that you're really healthy. A lot of GPs will only see you once or twice a year. And sometimes our expectation is in that 30-minute consult for them to know us inside out, but we've got to give them a hand, we've got to give them, we've got to let them know what our normal is so that if it's not normal, they can assess that. It's got to be sort of a partnership with your health professionals. It can't just be, I didn't get the right diagnosis or I was, pushing it back on them. I think we've got to put a little bit of personal responsibility on our own health as well. That connection that we talk about a lot, I think we're starting to get there with that, but there's a lot of people. We still are all time poor, but I'm a big fan of we're trying to normalize the conversation. So let's normalize the behavior. So like put it in the calendar, put it in your diary, put it in your work diary. Like I'm going to give my mate a phone call, or I'm going to go see him face to face. I'm going to do some exercise. I'm going to stop working for 30 minutes. Or, you know, whatever sort of action that you are really keen to take, put it in the calendar, schedule it, make it just as important or a priority as we do our work and our other stuff. Because I know with work, if it's not in the calendar, it doesn't happen. You know, it just doesn't happen. So, you know, perhaps if we're really determined to focus on other components of our life, treat it in the same way. Put it in the calendar, write it on your to-do list, you know, verbalize it with others, make a commitment to another person. For so many people that works. You know, I don't want to let someone down. So you know, I'll book it in with Ryan. You know, I'll share that calendar invite with them, and so that we just, and then hopefully by doing that sort of stuff, it creates that normalization, and before we know it, our attitudes to our mental health are becoming similar to our attitudes to our physical health, and there's a normalization around it, and to connect and talk to your mates and talk about significant things in life, so that you don't even know you're doing it, but your problem solving just becomes a bit more routine, because that's probably still, we're not quite getting it right, is that early intervention or that community self-care where you're just chatting about things, but you're sharing and you're problem solving. And Ryan says, oh yeah, I did this with Beachy, I love this bit, but not as much this bit. And I take a little bit from that. And you go off and do it with the next person. Oh, I love getting out for a hunt. Oh, but it takes too long. And, you know, someone says, oh, well, actually, there's a little spot up here that will knock 2 or 3 hours off your trip. And all of a sudden, you know, you're away for half a day, not a whole day. And all these things become a bit more manageable. And that's all part of it. And hopefully when you say it like that, I think it's quite simple and achievable. And we feel like, oh, we can do that, as opposed to how am I going to reduce the suicide statistics in New Zealand? Like when you say it like that, that's, oh shit, that's, that's a big goal. But if we just focused on ourselves and the 2 or 3 other people that are important to us, a best mate or a colleague or a family member, we all did that, happy days, I think we'd make significant impact.
Mate, it's the old adage of how do you eat an elephant, and that's one bite at a time. And you've just lit me up there, man. One of the things he sort of said to you was finding your normal. And again, I think that's another one of those things that for, you and I discussing this over 3 years, and you've been with the Movember crew for near on a decade, and it's like that's your normal, to know you're normal. But the amount of people that the whole self-reflection thing, and I think that's what's absolute cracker about that new ad campaign. Are you mad enough to write in your journal? Like, oh, that's for sissies. But where am I at? And I was listening to a fantastic podcast, twice actually, with Matthew McConaughey, and that's one of the things that he sort of realised about himself, is that he's writing all these, down in the dumps things when he's having a shit time in his diary. And then he sort of thought, well, what about when things are going good? Maybe if I write down how things are going good, then if I am going crap, I can check in on what was going well and go, am I doing that?
Yeah. Mate, I'm a big fan of that sort of stuff. I've also listened to at least 1 or 2 of the interviews that he's been doing lately with Rogan and that. And, I really enjoyed them as well. And, while, people like that of standing, or that are well known, can appear predominantly successful, they have so many peaks and troughs as well. And I think he speaks really well to how to cope through it. But I think, sometimes, maybe not all the time, but I do see this a little bit where, we're innately negative sometimes, or, we're glass half empty sometimes. But you're right, mate. Doesn't need to be overt. It doesn't need to be, Americanized. Apologies to all the good Americans. But to acknowledge the good stuff, the little wins, and I still think it goes back to sort of some of the stuff that JK used to talk about in his early campaigns, and I know it's something that really resonates with Matt Chisholm, who hosted Man Enough, is to celebrate those little things, like the cup of coffee in the morning and the shower, and the school drop off and the school pick up because you've got time to do that, or being able to get along to rugby on Saturday morning and watch your kids, or to be able to, even if it's just for a short and taking some get ahead of it and not let people get to the pointy end, because they are acknowledging the good stuff. When things are tough, they also acknowledge it, but they know how to a little bit better at being able to work through it, being able to intervene in their own lives and be like, oh shit, getting a bit jammed up here. These are a couple of the things that really helped me, because, there's something that featured in Man Enough, Head First, Tali Tapawha, which is about the four walls. If one of them's not as strong, like that can be okay if the other three are. We can have a bad day or a bad situation, but if the foundations are strong, it's when two or three start to wobble that things can maybe get a little bit out of sync. So, I thought he's been doing some great work lately, and I think it's another one of those people that's adding to the conversation in a really positive way.
Yeah, man. So let's go into Man Enough. And if you haven't watched it, it's just on demand. If you listen to a podcast, I'm sure you know how to use the internet. Go to TVNZ on demand and search it out, because it's about an hour and a half of absolute quality. And I've even myself talking with friends about the show have had some absolutely powerful conversations. I had one conversation and the person told me that they felt suicidal as a 14-year-old, and I was just like, shit, didn't know that. And then again, another mate said, I was in a real rut, a couple of years ago, and my family was really worried about me. And I was like, shit, sorry. Yeah. And I'm glad you're still here, and reinforcing that, well done for getting through it type thing. But as a show, just to what's mad enough about it? You go, well, just changing the conversation around mental health, and Matt's story as well quickly opens up the door. It's confronting the person, feels it straight away, and then goes, shit, I felt like that, and opens a space.
100%, mate. Like it's it's something that Movember funded, and like for us, kind of in behind it, it's actually what we call a funded program. So what we're trying to figure out is if we put a show on mass media, on TVNZ, get as many people to watch it as possible, as many men to watch it as possible, and like you say, get those right messages and themes flowing through the show, delivered by a fantastic host. Will that change behaviour? Because as we sort of talked about, the acknowledgement of the issue is there. The desire to do something about it is increasing every day. So can we that really hard part, can we get men to change? It's fantastic that you've, off the back of the show, been having those types of conversations, and that's something we're evaluating at the moment, is how much that's happening, so we can see whether that's a great intervention. But I think you're right, mate. Matt was a fantastic host and deliverer of that message, and spoke to his own experiences when appropriate, but also was a great listener, and when he was chatting to other people as well, which is a really important part of it. So the feedback's been awesome so far, which is great, and I've had heaps of similar conversations that I've just had with you now, that it's been acted as a bit of a catalyst or a platform to have some of these the types of conversations that we really want men to have in New Zealand. And hopefully once we do the evaluation, we can see that that's actually happened en masse, to a really high degree, and it's been a successful intervention. So it's an exciting project to be a part of, mate. It's amazing, how many things didn't make the show as well. There's almost a whole, another show of really good extras. Like, people were fantastic to work with. It was just, we had to piece it all together in an appropriate way that it, got the messages out in the right way as well. But there'll be, it's not a TV show in isolation for us. It's something we'll continue to promote the good messages out of, and try and make it into a campaign that's everlasting, really. So yeah, thank you for watching though, mate. I appreciate it.
No, it was bloody wicked, mate. I had to laugh at the Southern man analogy, because having to go to university in Auckland, that was such a conundrum for my whole like high school. Was shit, I've got to go live in Auckland.
Mate, it's funny you because I went to university in Canterbury and stuff, and probably had strong elements of that Southern man psyche in my life and my friends and my environment. But you almost, until you stop and take a breath and reflect on those days, you didn't actually think. I think sometimes what I really liked about it is sometimes people say we haven't moved that far. We're not making progress. We're not going in the right direction. But when you look at like those sort of Southern man campaigns, and then you look at what Spates do today, we absolutely come a long way. And if you look at the chats we're having now, and the things we're referencing as examples of great content to catch up on mental health, like we're 100% going in the right direction. And it's not just about lowering mental health and suicide numbers. It's about just living a better life, like just trying to live a better, fuller life, and trying to enjoy your friends and your family, and having a bit of balance. That's, creating a bit of resilience, and effectively that's what we're trying to do. So I think we're going in the right direction.
Yeah, mate, you're often sort of seeing there, and that's what I think the latest ad campaign directs, is a lot of people acting out of sort of fear or a feminine mentality, that this sort of getting in touch or communicating more means that you're taking away from masculinity. And I still try to get my head around what that's about. I think it's just a positioning and a sort of a marketing place for these people. But they throw up some examples, and it's almost kind of like, well, there's a spectrum of people, and if you're trying to target the ultra masculine, well, that's cool. But in your conversation, are you sort of alienating the rest of the world and for your niche, and making the problem worse? I sort of feel it. I think that's what I think is quite good. Are you too scared to talk about that? Like, where's this all coming from?
Yeah, I think you're right, mate. Like there is like, you really consider when you put those things together, and you're right. Like, you never want to put a campaign across that is seen to be almost not acknowledging or giving credit to the people who are doing these things, because you're right. You're in a 30 or 60-second piece, you're trying to speak to a lot of people. So, it is really hard to be specific, and there is so many people out there, doing a lot of the things that we're asking them to do, and having some really positive behavioral change. So it is something to be really conscious of. I think we hope that the audience understands the nuances, and that, there's still, unfortunately, the issue is still significant. At the pointy end, there is still some people taking drastic action. So perhaps we are trying to talk to that cohort of people, which is still significant, that still need a bit of a hand. But I still think, mate, is knowing, I suppose, for lack of a better word, about mental health and suicide prevention, that I might be, because I work for Movember, and I have these chats with people like yourself, and see a huge amount of information put across the computer. It is still easier for me to speak in front of literally 5,000 people and talk about Movember, male mental health, what you need to be doing, than it is for me to talk to show some vulnerability to my good group of friends from University of High School. That is still a far more difficult conversation than it wouldn't matter how many people it is. So, that says to me, I think I would say that that's similar for a lot of people. While we're making some good steps forward, and even for the people who want to and are going in the right direction, it's still a bloody hard thing to have those conversations, and to show a little bit of vulnerability, and to talk about some of the significant things in life quite quickly. Like there's still work to be done there. So, you know, you're right, mate. We don't want to call anyone out, I suppose. But it's also, you know, to a lesser extent, like you and me are in the fishbowl a little bit, you know, like we're in there and we're talking to people, we're preaching the converted, you know, all the people that we went around and Man Enough, they're on that journey as well. Like they want to see change. They're trying to drive it hard. But that's a subsection of the community. Like there's still a lot of people out there, you know, whether they're in building construction, whether they're, you know, absolute guns in their field as a lawyer or an accountant or whatever, are still desperate to put up a certain perception of who they are. And, you know, we still want to challenge those people to get balance in life and you know, let them know that, you know, actually maybe vulnerability has real elements of strength in it, you know.
I spoke about this with Mike Lash, but hearing Steve Hansen say that, you know, Kerry Evans and Gilbert Onaka brought that word into the All Blacks, and then hearing it followed up with, and unfortunately I can't remember his name, but the coach of the Broncos.
Oh yeah, Seabolt.
Yeah, that's the one. Hearing them say the power of vulnerability and the connection and the ability to move forward with the task ahead, I just thought was, you know, you're saying you can look at it in big picture and go, oh, where's the needle moving? But when you're hearing of organisations like that, front of house, you know, what's working well for you? Well, we were a bit more vulnerable. We got this great response back and expression of people as who they were. And I was like, well, there you go.
Yeah, totally. And I'll challenge till the cows come home around, you know, there are times, you know, where you'll hear commentary or people say, you know, that the world's gone PC, or that we're not as resilient as we used to be. We're not able to, you know, tackle some of the challenges in life as much as we used to be able to. But and all the information, all the research and statistics show this. We are rammed ourselves in life these days. Like our phone is beeping at us from 6 a.m. till 10 at night. We are loading ourselves up with more work, more commitments as a family, more debt, and there's more debt in our lives. You know, more pressures than there ever has been before. And that's not to take away anything from previous generations, but you know, what definitely isn't happening is it's not getting easier. Like I'm not saying it's getting harder, because the challenges are different and they metastasize in different ways. But there's no bit of information anywhere that you'll ever find that says that life is getting easier. You know, like that is non-existent. So for anyone to say, oh, Jesus Christ, you know, people just need to be able to get on with things. Yeah, shit, we need to build resilience, and we need to be able to you know, get information to people to help them. But, you know, like there's, you know, my point being is there's plenty of challenges in the world. And obviously this year, probably more than ever, you know, what a year.
Yeah, what a year. Mate, that speaks to sort of that innate human thing of not being good enough or focusing on the negative, you know, the glass is only half full, well, I've got to do all this. Instead of that little moment of reflection. Even this morning, I was looking over at the wall planner and go, shit, what a year! But there's been a few big ticks going on in the air, and I think that's where the power of reflection. Nigel was talking about that gratitude thing in the context of grace. You know that, and he was sort of said that, you know, now that might be called gratitude, sitting down for a meal and giving yourself 3 breaths and going, right, let's get into this. But
yeah,
just that sort of slowing down, moving forward, attacking it, acknowledging what's in front of you. Like you just reeled off the things of acknowledging what's in front of you, and then that, you know, I was listening about something, but just making a plan drops anxiety so much.
Yeah, mate, I agree. And like, it's kind of like something I always say off the back of Movember is, during the 30 days of Movember, if you did anything that you found really hit the spot, was really positive, really helped you, well, keep it going, you know, like make it stick. Like it's just keep it going for all the other days outside of Movember. You know, that's what we're trying to achieve. And it's the same with COVID. And I had a yarn to Beachy about this. you know, COVID was challenging in so many ways, and will continue to be so. But I even know with my own family, just sitting down at the table and having dinner, it just sounds so simple. We didn't do it every night, but we just, because you had everyone was home, you had a bit more time to prepare a meal, and you sat down at the dinner table and ate it together, and just actually had some yarns, had some decent conversations. You're like, shit, this is actually pretty good. Instead of throwing food down, everyone having it at the breakfast table, me and my wife eating while we're standing so that we can, you know, get into the shower, get on to the next thing, and blah, 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 you know, like, it was really good. So, we're not going to be able to do it every night, but once a week, just still sitting down and having dinner as a family, like, just make it stick. It's, that's sort of what we're trying to say off the back of COVID as well. There was a lot of people saying, there are elements of it I really enjoyed, you know, like we were able to have elements of it where we slowed down, ticked a few jobs off at home, made us feel really good, made us appreciate. I actually met my neighbours for once, had a chat with my neighbours for once in my life, you know, like a bit of a sense of community. You actually stopped and leant over the fence and had a yarn for half an hour, or people just aren't doing that stuff as much as they used to. So, make that stuff stick, because it's good stuff, and kind of goes back to what we were saying at the start. It doesn't need to be super complicated. It just needs to be done. Like, that's the hard bit. It's just to do it. It's like what Lashy does. He just gets out. He's booked it in, and they just get out, and they get out on the water, and he knows the process is really good for him. And he just gets it done. He set it up. And that's the hard part, is just getting it done.
Yeah, it's just crack up. You just immediately think of the Sunday roast, like what a benign thing. But hey, get around the table.
How good is it?
Oh, mate, it's just the best. And then it was funny talking to Kent Mulligan from Modern Pirate and Wildfire. He was sort of saying that when he come back to New Zealand and goes to a place like Whitianga, and everyone says g'day to him from Melbourne, where there's millions of people, and even in a place like Melbourne, he was noticing with that lockdown that all of a sudden in the 5K radius that he was allowed, people were saying g'day all of a sudden, and I guess it does speak to New Zealand that way. He's still got that g'day, and you see people like Josh James talk about the old finger wave on things. That was what I couldn't believe. The day I owned a Hilux, I drove it back from Queenstown to Christchurch, and every single one of them gave me a wave. I was like, "This is a secret little group." This.
Oh, mate, I'm actually massive believer in that stuff, and like if you can do, there's a couple of ways you can go about things, like particularly in a workplace, and it can be just to get in there and get on with things, and still be a fantastic employee. But I'm adamant that if you just take the time to know at least one or two things about all your colleagues, so on a Monday morning, you can come in and say, "Oh, Ryan, how's it going, mate? Did you do that hunt in the weekend?" Like, straight away, it creates a level of familiarity, and I think, then when the time comes and the pressure's on and you need to ask something of these people at work, the guard's down just a little bit more, and we just create a bit of environment. And it just sounds so simple, but smiling, waving, how'd you go on the weekend, mate? Knowing that a little bit about them, whether it was they love cycling, or whether it was their kids, or whether it was just knowing, just making an effort to know just a little bit about some people, goes a hell of a long way. Easier said than done.
Yeah. And mate, the other thing that's sort of moving along, when I first started this podcast, I was inspired by a fella that used to do videography for Media to TV, and I was watching the Stephen Ranella documentary the other day, and there's Dan Doty standing there, and I was also hearing someone talk to Stephen Ranella the other day, and they said Dan Doty's this massive dude, and he's a professional tussock jumper. If you've ever tried to walk in tussock, it's horrific, and this guy can carry a camera, carry a pack, a bit like Dave Shaw. Just get on with it. But so this big hulking man that used to film hunting shows now operates this, it's going global, thing called Everyman. And then it's awesome. What's wicked to see out of COVID, I think it's Sam Robinson, That might be wrong. I think he's around North Canterbury somewhere, place
Yep.
your heart. And another bloke, they've got a thing in Christchurch called Man Cave, and they're doing live, interactive men's circles, and then they're also doing things online. And someone that featured on the second episode of Man Enough, Ellie Perriam, she's involved with that as well. So, we're starting to see these sort of men's groups and men's circles and men's meetups starting to happen. 3 years on, we're usually 10 years behind the States, and so we're getting better.
We're getting real better, and I think it's important to note as well, like those things are magnificent, but if they ever, if someone within the group is really, really struggling, to make sure they point them in the right direction as well, like not to try and take too much on themselves, because there's actually something to be really careful with. Like it's those things, those groups are amazing. But if they do feel someone's really at a point of crisis or really struggling, to try and push them really hard to some professional services, because the last thing we want is people to take that on as a burden as well. But we saw so much of it in Man Enough with the different groups that are featured in there. Amazing work but all, like the stuff Ellie does, simple actions, like same thing, controllables and uncontrollables, and making sure we're focusing on the things we can't control, and real gratitude. Like they do an amazing job.
Mate, have you got from your time with Movember, have you got some sort of tactics to go from that conversation or that group thing, and not to throw them under the bus, but that's one of my criticisms of the sort of life coach stuff, is that it's very much internal positive focused. But on the flip side, having also done some psychotherapy, I find that that's very, here's the patterns, here's the breaking of things, and a little bit of honesty and accountability going on. And like you say, and then further from that, if you are in mental disease, getting that professional help is challenging. Do you have some sort of tactics of that sort of stepwise approach that, hey, fantastic, you've built some courage and we're having this conversation, or say you're in that group trying to find some answers, but realistically, we're a support network, we're not the professional help. Have you come up with anything that takes someone further? Because, we've all got mental health, but when it comes to mental disease, as you say, you can take on too much.
Yeah, totally. And like you did right, mate. Like, and you'll see, on a lot of our collateral website material, we're appropriate. We always, show that we're not a helpline. We're not a service provider. We try and give people as much information as we can to not get them to that point. But if they are at that point, then these are the places that you need to go, because this is where the professionals are. And I think that's a really important point to make for anyone kind of in the community that's keen to help, is like, an early intervention can be extremely significant. Like that, there is huge value in that, and that can stop someone perhaps needing to use the 1737 line or one of the helplines. But the point around mental health versus mental illness, one thing with blokes in particular is, tragically, many men don't have to be mentally ill to take their own life. Like quite often it's environmental or circumstantial elements that drive them to do something drastic, and like that's, so it's looking out for your mates, change your relationship, financial situation, job, really significant things in life actually can be quite detrimental for a fella more than a female, because they're not as good at problem solving. So it's great to try and look after the people around you by having good, strong relationships. Definitely keep an eye out for those sorts of things. Like they're real things that can hit blokes hard. And they, as I said, they don't have to be mentally ill for that to have, they can be mentally quite healthy, but one or two of those things hitting them can have a real impact. So it's when one of your mates or colleagues or something might be going through that sort of situation, it's important to keep an eye on them. And then again, if you're worried about them, to push them to, you know, not to try and take that on yourself, to push them to try and get help, whatever that may be, because, you know, you certainly validate how they're feeling because it's genuine and they're struggling, and you're there for support, but you encourage them to take action as much as you possibly can, because, you know, even if they potentially don't want to, those services are in a much better position to help them than you are potentially. But there is lots of, there's a lot of information around as well around that early intervention stuff is really successful around, you know, helping out your mates, helping them put a plan in place, knowing their triggers, you know, like if they're under the pump, catching up with them, creating a break for them, putting a plan in place. That stuff's it's all fantastic. But if you feel that's not working, and like any issues around services is not the community's to sort, you know, like that's government, NGOs, health boards, like is to do the work and to truly, you know, Movember is to figure out whether the interventions need scale. You know, yeah, that's the job of other people. That's when we get into that space where it's like, it'll get beyond you really quickly, I think.
Mate, you brought up the term NGO and governments. What's the sort of actual structure of Movember set up? You know, is it non-profit, social enterprise, charity? Where are you guys at?
Yeah, totally. We're a registered charity here in New Zealand. So every Movember country is a registered charity in that country, so that you can fundraise in that country and fund programs like Man Enough, like Head First, like Farm Strong. So you can fund those programs locally. As it stands, Movember doesn't receive any government funding. Where, you know, we are the result of some very generous Mo bros and sisters donating to us, and that allows us to go off and fund these programs. That's not to say in other countries we are starting to interact with government a bit more. I think we see ourselves as a catalytic funder. So like sometimes we're prepared to fund something, you know, perhaps before others wouldn't, and if it's really successful, if we can prove up that it's a great intervention and it needs to be scaled, then that's when government, district health boards, whoever the appropriate you know, organisation comes in to help scale it up. But I mean, I think I've said this before with you. You know, when we focus on the mental health side of things, no one organisation is going to fix it by themselves. You know, not for profit. Even the private enterprise and corporate and government, there needs to be strong elements of collaboration there. You know, firstly, so you're all singing from the same song sheet and you're all saying the same consistent messages. You're driving people to the right places, and if you are driving to those places, that those places are well resourced and they're able to do what it is they're meant to be doing. Whether that's always happening, you know, that's probably a whole nother podcast, but that's the way it's got to be, you know, like, you know, we need to collaborate, you know, it needs to be a team effort with all the different organizations and the community we interact with, you know, like you know, there's just so many amazing advocates out there, and we've just got to make sure that we're helping them advocate in the right way as well.
You mean, and sort of one of the things we ended up talking about yesterday is that level of collaboration. Now you guys being pretty established, there's probably not too much pushback going on, but it must have been difficult in the early days to come in and say, hey, we're a group and we want help.
Yeah, no, it was, mate. You know, probably actually in the cancer side of things, our model, you know, it took a wee while for people to buy into it. I'd probably say one of the things that really helped with that in the end was that we were the funders. So if you wanted to be a part of it, you know, you needed to buy into the process, which was to collaborate, to stop duplication, to make sure that the stuff that doesn't work is shared as well as the stuff that does, because it's just as important. And you're right on the mental health side of things. You know, as I said to you before, mate, we've always funded mental health initiatives, but it's probably just in the last 4 or 5 years that we've been able to, you know, really stimulate the conversation, that there's been real acknowledgement around the issue, and we're in a good spot to be able to drive that and channel it hopefully in the right direction. But yeah, I mean, there's always issues around, you know, everyone has the different things they're trying to achieve. But what I am finding, particularly in the last 3 or 4 years, is that everyone's intentions are bang on. You know, we all want to do good stuff. You know, we all want to make a significant change. It's just, you know, sometimes getting everyone to line up on that just takes a few chats. But like it's going well. You know, like look at the way the various groups contributed to Man Enough. You know, like outstanding. Like they were across everything from the community through to medical professionals to, you know, whoever we asked really was Sir JK, who's got his own, you know, different initiatives going on as well, but he was happy to contribute, you know, so it's predominantly bang on.
That's pretty good. And it might be sort of one of those things that the needle's shifting on and that endemic lack of community that I think we must have used to have when it was clubs and stuff. I was busy reading about my great-grandfather, and he was part of some sort of Irish club down in Dunne, and you know, just for the sake of meeting up type thing. And then all of a sudden, our family shrunk, our community shrunk. We didn't talk to our neighbours, and then we're in this hole. And maybe that's where that feminine mentality all of a sudden came from, with the lack of collaboration. And it's good to hear that things are moving forward and growing as a group.
Yeah, no, I think it's actually, when you think about it, a really obvious one, but like, you know, we are all, you know, effectively descendants of tribes of different forms, and you know, sometimes we don't have that as a part of our life as much as we should, and so anything that kind of facilitates that community is really important, and that can be as subtle as what we chatted about Sunday night dinner. You know, like that is a very small example of it, through to, you know, our local sports clubs and community clubs, our schools, etc. You know, at a bigger level.
You spoke about those real sort of significant things that tend to tip blokes over the edge, and I think that might be where, you know, social media is extremely powerful for you guys, powerful for what I do, but it gives us a false sense of security because we're seeing the highlight reels. And unless we're sort of sending that text, taking that another level, having that conversation, taking that another level, FaceTiming or Zooming or whatever it is, and then, of course, the ultimate being there in presence and feeling someone's energy, do you think that might be where we're missing those sort of landmarks of people in our friend circle? And that's where we can all take that responsibility to be in touch with actually what's the things that are going on in the day-to-day versus, oh shit, they're always on holiday.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you do. By nature, you obviously share the good stuff, and that perhaps creates a perception of everything's good. You know, I've always been, you know, I think social media is like anything else. We've just got to know the good and bad of it, and it's just got to be a part of the mix. And on the good side of things, it's this great tool that helps organise my kids' rugby team and my kids' school activities, and keeps me informed about all the different things that we need to do. And I can see photos of what my kids are up to at school and little videos and stuff. And that's a really positive thing. And as long as that's a part of the mix, where I'm down there at school sometimes as well, or I'm down there face to face at sport, as long as it's part of the mix where I don't just interact with all my friends through looking at my feed, but I do look at their feed. But then when I see something really cool, I give them a ring about it. It's just part of the mix, you know. Like, we can fight it and say it's all bad, but it goes back to that thing I was saying at the start. It's our we've got to take some personal responsibility for that stuff and say, like, we can use it any way we want to use it. So let's try and use it in the best way possible, and put it back on ourselves a little bit, and integrate it in the best ways, rather than using it as, you know, this terrible thing. And we'll try and cut those bits out.
Bloody good, man. Well, it looks like we're both getting some movement around our houses. So
yeah, we'll get in the call.
That's it. we'll put the cap on it there, mate. If you haven't found Movember already, it's pretty simple, isn't it? Movember.co.nz or .nz.
Yeah, Movember.com. That'll take you straight there.
.com, even easier. The OG, and that takes you everywhere. What's the plan this month, mate?
Oh, mate, there's it's a lot doesn't change. If we can get as many people to that website as possible, that's the key for us. By getting there, we're able to sort of get the messages that we've been talking about today. And it helps people go forth and participate in Movember in the best way and be strong advocates. And it's our one-stop shop, and I think it is a really good platform. So get as many people as possible along to there. And I know it's been a tough year, but we're sort of saying, we'll only fundraise where appropriate, and doesn't matter where it's one donation, one moustache, one conversation. But if we're, do it en masse, if we do it collectively, then it makes a significant difference. And that's what we're asking of people. So hopefully, plenty of raises out today, and as they rock in tomorrow, good to go for a really awesome 30 days of men's health.
Yeah, and if you're listening, you should jump onto the YouTube or catch one of the clips that I do of Roundy, because it's the few times you see him without a moustache. Mate.
That's it, mate. This is the missus' favourite couple of days of the year.
Right, speaking of, I better let you get out there and make sure those two boys don't, murder each other.
Yeah, look it up. Nah, thank you, mate. I appreciate this. Look forward to listening to it back on the podcast. Doing a great job.
Cheers, mate. Always good to chat. Cheers.
Cheers, bro. Talk soon.